That went to become #1 in America, but even that was dwarfed by the tremendous success of Another One Bites the Dust, which sold over 2 million as a single in the United States alone and was on the chart forever. Of course, John had been very clever in picking up that chic bass line, but nonetheless, the group had built on top of it this marvelous sound, this marvelous song, and as is so often with popular music, if you use as a title a popular expression and you do it well, it's doubly memorable.
Let's go! She walks barely down the street with the brim pulled way down low. Ain't no sound but the sound of his feet. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Out of the doorway, the bullets rip to the sound of the beat. Yeah. Another one bites the dust.
I think they were very natural kind of adopters of things that were going on at the time in some respects when you get to dealing with songs like Another One Bites the Dust. I mean, the first 3 bass notes of that are, lifted straight from Chic. But then it kind of goes and does something different. It doesn't become a pastiche of some kind of lame white funk rock thing. It's still Queen. Roger still plays, a fairly kind of straight, lumpy rock 2 and 4 underneath the bass line. He doesn't kind of funk it up too much. But they're obviously kind of aware of what else is kind of going on, but manage to do it in their own way. And there is that kind of constant reinvention, the kind of, sponge-like kind of soaking up of influences that are around and delivering them kind of in their own way.
How do you think I'm gonna get along without you when you're gone? You took me for everything that I had and kicked me out of my own. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? How long can you stand the heat? Out of the doorway, the bullets rip to the sound of the beat. Look out! Another one bites the dust.
Another One Bites the Dust is certainly one of their great records. You still hear it played. It still gets people up and dancing at weddings and parties. And it was written by the bass player, which perhaps accounts for why it's got such a fantastic bass riff. It kind of made a nod in the direction of disco that was sweeping at the time.
Another One Bites the Dust was a disco song. It put them straight into the disco dance floor. Again, it was a craze at the time. Queen thought, let's try something around that. They took a bass line from Chic, I think from a song called Good Times, built it up around that. It was a John Deacon song. But again, the essence of it was melody. And there was still something Queen about it.
Another One Bites the Dust became the biggest US hit of 1980. Queen were only the 3rd non-American band behind the Beatles and the Rolling Stones to have achieved this feat. The game was released in June 1980 and quickly climbed to #1 in the UK chart. By October, the game had been certified platinum in the US.
It was a perfect record, and you see, there you had, in one album, the essence of Queen, that they had 2 singles, both definitive in their own way, from different genre, the variety that helped make it. And if you add Roger's song Rocket, which is another type of song, there's accomplishment across the board. Fantastic performance.
By the end of 1980, Queen had sold over 25 million singles and 45 million albums worldwide. Over a 7-year period of unparalleled output and creative energy, the band had risen to become one of the biggest acts on the planet. That they routinely played to vast arenas said much for the scale and breadth of the sound that created both stadium rock and, in Freddie Mercury, one of the icons of contemporary music.
He was multi-talented, Freddie Mercury, this all-powerful personality, which sometimes worked against him. I mean, people did find him so over the top that they would flinch and reject him. A lot of people couldn't stand Queen for that very reason. There's quite, You have to understand that as much as people love Queen, there were as many people who were hostile towards them or rejected them, didn't like them at all, or couldn't see what they were doing. But without him, I don't think Queen would have been a success, and he certainly towers above rock music. Now, especially more in retrospect, since his tragic death, and listening to all the music that they produced during that fever-pitch period, I think we realise that he was more than just a sort of mustachioed guy jumping up and down Live Aid and shouting, "We are the champions."
It's interesting because I don't think Queen actually had a great deal of influence on the rest of the music scene. I think they're one of those bands, they did what they did and nobody else did it like them. And, you know, I'm sure there are certainly Queen tribute bands around today, but it's very hard to look at 70s or 80s rock and find a school of bands that were made in the image of Queen. What they did was unique, and it was almost as if people accepted that it was unique, and therefore there was no point in even trying to copy it.
What they are now is massively bigger and more important than what they were when they were actually at their peak of performing. But history, which calls all the time, has gradually eliminated a lot of the more important artists to leave the ones that people actually liked and who still sound good. And Queen still sound good, and people still like them.
That was almost there. Try another one, okay? Boom. Ta-da! Huh? Got it!
All the hours in the studio spent labouring over all these brilliant tracks, all these remarkable albums. I think that's Queen's legacy, really, and Freddie Mercury's legacy is that they elevated rock music into something else. They took it a stage further that nobody else had the imagination or the wit to do. So ultimately, I think Queen were probably one of the best bands, certainly of their era, and perhaps one of the best bands in rock and roll history.
I paid my dues, time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.